Thomas went from selling bread to being a stockbroker, and he experienced the Wolf of Wall Street of his life in real time. But not only that, he now is proud equity owner of 2 companies and traveled a lot in between. Now that we're here in Bali, listen to this extremely interesting and inspiring story that you can learn a shit ton from. Because we've been hanging out in Bali a lot, actually, because we're in the same office and both doing sales work. And every time it's a pleasure.
The same. And a pleasure for me to attend your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, because I asked you like 5 times at least, like, yeah, but I want to tell your story. I want to tell your story because, yeah. And now we're here.
You're a good salesman. You got me into it.
But you have even more experience, and that's what we're going to dive into right now. Because where did it all start for you? Like the beginning.
I would say school time, high school, like young adult, 14, 15. It actually started before that. It all comes down to I didn't like school. I semi-hated it. And it wasn't because I think I had like a learning problem or something like that. I just didn't like sitting in the school reading mathematics because I didn't see a reason for it. When will I use like pi or Pythagoras sats or whatever? And my parents were both teachers, so that was a pretty bad combination. They were pretty pissed. So my father always told me actually that I would end up as a cleaner. I think maybe that's still in my mind. But yeah, they were pretty pissed off, but they raised me in a good way. And I think that was crucial because if I wasn't, I mean, like, you could go the other way, You can end up with other things that is not good for you or the society or so.
Yeah, and that's what we had a bit of a pre-talk, of course, before we hit the record button. And there you said that knowing what's right and what's wrong helped you a lot throughout the whole journey just to be like ethical.
Yes.
And just to stay on the good path. That also was because you're raised in that way with good values, I guess?
I think so. It's hard to tell because I don't know if someone is born with the values of right and wrong. Maybe you have that inside you of a bit, but I think my parents raised me in a good way with teaching me that. So even though I was like a shit kid, I would say, with a lot of energy and couldn't sit still in school, I wasn't mean to people. I wasn't like a bad person in school, I would say, but I just didn't like it,
Yeah.
So I kept on going, but until I finished, and then that was it. Like, now I'm done with this. Now I have to do something else, but I didn't know what.
Because you only finished high school, right?
Yeah.
And at some point during high school, your mom came to your room?
Yeah. I was like 14, 15 years old, maybe younger, I don't remember. But I remember the case. I was sitting at my computer, maybe playing a game or something. And my mother comes in to my room, and she doesn't say anything. She has cut out a piece of paper, and it says like it's from the newspaper or something. And it said like 5 reasons or 5 signs that your kid has ADHD. And she just put it on my my desk and left. And I'm just like, I'm a sick person. I didn't know what ADHD was. I knew like people who had ADHD, they were idiots and screaming and shit. And I'm just like, is that me? And I started to cry, I think. And she said like, no. I just gave it to you. And she just like, cover it up, And I actually forgot about that until I went to the military. Because after high school, I didn't know what to do, And I was more or less forced into the military, which actually changed my mind and made me, I think, more goal-orientated. I think like the military, it's not a cliche. I think it does bring the boys to men, actually. I think it does something good too. You push your limits, both physical and psychological. And in the army, in the end, I remember it was a girl who took some pills or something. And I asked her what it was, and she said, yeah, but it's ADHD pills. And I'm just like, no, you don't have ADHD. You're not a crazy motherfucker, And she said, no, but I have this and this and this. And that was like concentration problems sitting still, And she just like, it was like she read a book of my life. I'm just like, whoa, okay. So I got actually to a doctor, and they considered, yeah, I do have ADHD. And I didn't know anything about it back then, but I read a lot about it, and I thought like, okay, maybe I could use this as a benefit in life. So yeah, but
So what are the things, because you finished high school, then you did not know what to do, you were forced into the military. How old were you then?
18 or 19, 18, I think.
18 or 19. And there you grew up as a man, as you would say yourself, and then because of the discipline you learned, why is that?
I think you're not allowed to bitch around, you know. You walk around with all your excuses, and when you were a kid, you could get away with it. You don't get away with it there. It's like, you were sick, we don't care, you have to walk anyways. You have to pack your bag and leave, through, even though it's cold outside, you have to go, even though we have a fever. That for me was totally crazy, but you cannot do that if you're sick. But they pushed us to it, and I think like all those things make us men grow, you know. I don't think you can like be too good to a man and he will turn out good. You have to like teach him like the hard way. I'm not telling you to beat your kids, but I'm telling you to like be hard to your boys at least, and just like tell them what's right and what's wrong and what you could do and cannot do.
And that's something that comes along in your story when we go further away as well, because strict, direct people helped you a lot in your whole journey to where you are right now. So it's funny that it already started in the military there, and then from the military, because that was in
Sweden, yes.
Sweden.
That was in Sweden, and I am Swedish. And when I finished up, I again didn't know what to do. But all my life I've known that I shouldn't live in this city, at least because it's a small city. I was like fancying like New York and stuff when I was a kid. But I looked up the thing with green card, and it was impossible to get it, more or less. But my sister lived in Oslo, so I took the bus actually from Sweden to Norway and had no plan actually. So I slept at her couch, and I wrote some CVs. I didn't know how to write a CV, but I tried, you know, Google it and back and forth, and printed a bunch of them. And then I went to like the main shopping street in Norway, in Oslo, and then I just handed them out, not to the people walking, but I went into like a bar and just like, I can bartender, or I can do this, and I left it to like everyone, every store, you know, 7-Eleven and so on. And I didn't get one answer actually, no one. So that was a little bit problematic, but I got to know a guy in Oslo, and he said, yeah, but I do sell bread from a like mini van or something like that. You should try that. You should meet my boss. And I went to his job. I met this guy, the boss, and he just like took my CV. I don't think he read it properly. He just like, yeah, you've been to the military, you're young, you're strong, when you want to start? And I'm just like, whoa, okay. So I just like, yeah, I can start next week. So I told my parents like, okay, I'm moving to Norway for a while, or I don't know, I'm moving at least. So I moved there, and I got like actually a big like, I just got my driver license. So I got a big car that I should like maneuver in Oslo, and this was 2010. It doesn't seem so long ago, but the GPS, it was a physical one. You didn't have the cell phone. It was like a physical one, and it wasn't updated. And if it was cold outside, it just lagged for 30 seconds, you know. So trying to maneuver that in Oslo was pretty problematic. I actually drove into things. I remember I crashed through a traffic light, actually. So a lot of those things happened in the beginning, but it was very fun.
So it was actually your first sales job.
It was my first sales job.
Selling bread. So how did it go? You just...
It actually went pretty good, but it was warm customers in a way. You know, the customers know you were coming to the store, and you put the bread in the shelves, and then you try to sell them to buy more. You know, that was the thing, and it went pretty good. We wasn't measured in that way as you do in a hardcore sales job, but it went pretty good. But after a while, you know, I climbed the ladder as like a salesperson in this company, but I saw like, this maybe is not the place I should be. And I got in contact with like a recruiter, and he said like he tried to pitch me to work for Norway's biggest alarm company. And I asked him how it works, and he said, yeah, you have to cold call people, book meetings, go to the meetings by car or whatever, and sell to them. And I had no experience about anything of this. I didn't actually know what it meant. And then he said, like, the base pay is like half of what you have, but you have the possibility to earn a lot. And I'm just like, am I gonna go down in salary to do this? I could rather be more comfortable and do this. And so I kept on doing what I did. I said no to the job. And the fun thing is, or the good thing is, he didn't give up. So he kept on calling me and just like, I know you could be a success in this company. You should try. And after a while, I decided to, okay, I was fed up with a bread company. So I said, okay, let's go. So I went to this company and I got a pitch and I started to cold call people, you know, and book meetings and go into the meetings. And the first week, I didn't sell anything. It was a 0. And the second week, it was the same. I didn't sell anything. And I remember my sales manager, he was with me in the car. So when I got to a meeting, I had booked like, I haven't booked with maybe CEO of the company. I booked with someone that was working there that said like, yeah, you could come and meet the CEO. He will be here. When I got there, he just like, no, I don't have time for you. I have a lot of shit to do. So that was embarrassing, first of all. And I didn't earn any money doing it. And I remember after the end of 2 weeks, I was at the gym in the evening and I got a message on my phone, and that was from the sales manager. And I don't know if it just sent it to me or to other people as well, but in this message, it said like, for those people who don't sell anything next week, just for your information, you're out. We're going to kick you out in a way. And that was like a punch in the stomach, you know. I couldn't finish my training, and I just like had to go home. Not go home crying, but you know, shit, now I have a problem, because what have I done? I've gone down in salary 50%. I can't actually pay my mortgage or my apartment. And now I maybe be out of a job in like next week. So I didn't know what to do. I went to the job the next week. I did the same thing, but I was more like, you know,
focused on talking to the right people.
Yeah. Instead of calling and just accepting that the CEO will be there, I asked for the CEO every time, and I didn't book a meeting with someone who didn't give me the number to the CEO, or I didn't have spoken to him. And I started having the meetings with the right person, but I still didn't get the sale, you know. And it became like Tuesday, Wednesday, and it started to become at the end of the week, and I'm just like, this is the quit your job end of the week, and that's a problem. So I started to not leave the meetings. Before I went to the meeting, and they could say like 10 minutes afterwards, like, we're not interested. And I stood up and I'm just like, okay, I'll go home. But this time I knew that if I go home, if I leave, I won't have any place to live. So
there was this urgency for you to sell because you needed to.
Exactly. And I knew there was no like turning back. So I just like, okay, I don't know the CEO. I won't leave this chair until I found out what takes him to buy, you know. And
how did you do it?
Actually, I didn't ask the right questions before. I did, and they answered, and then I was fine. But then I kept on digging deeper. Yeah, but what happens if? What could this bring you? And started to ask those kind of questions. And then we found the pain, and then he was actually ready to sign. So then I got my first sale and my second, and it just kept on going. And I'm just like, okay, if it could be this easy, it's possible to earn a lot of money. So I had actually a thing, and people made jokes about it, but I never left the chair. And 2 times I was actually more or less thrown out because I had booked a meeting with a CEO. And often you come there and they haven't put it in the calendar. And they say, oh, true, it's you. I don't have time for you, so I have to do a next meeting. And then I'm just like, it's not disrespectful for only him, me being there, is disrespectful for me. It's my valued time as well. So I just sat down in the chair, or took a chair and sat down and said like, okay, but now I'm here, so let's do 10 minutes. And most people said, okay, let's do it.
So also just taking the confidence to hook someone in and just say, yeah, but now we're here, now we can do it.
Exactly, and it works so well. I think that should people do more of. I mean, like, I tested the limits. Some people were just like, no, you're not sitting down. And I'm just like, kind of watch me, and sat down. And 2 times I remember it was like a pretty bad vibe. One called the security, and the other one actually tried to like, he grabbed me, and I'm just like, are you gonna grab me? And like, he went a little bit too far physically, but I also went too far by sitting in his chair. So I mean, like, I learned from that.
You were sitting in the chair of the CEO, or
No, his chair, but his like guest chair, so to say. So yeah, I pushed the limits in that way, but that I learned that many people are like, they're not gonna do anything. I mean, like, they're just like, okay, maybe they respect you more than if you leave, you know. If you leave, they're just like, oh shit, kid, I can do that again, and most likely they have done it again. But if you just sit down and just like, yeah, it's my time as well, let's go through it. And many of those ended up in sales, and that was pretty nice for me, because I know, like, okay, they say no to me on the phone, they say no when I come there, but you could turn them anyways. And yeah,
by standing firm, showing some kind of confidence, and keep on asking questions to identify a proper pain.
Yes.
So dig deeper than just the surface level.
Exactly. And just building a chemistry. I mean, like, I really liked my job. It was one of the best jobs I had, because basically my job was coming to a place, talking to a CEO who often has an interesting story to tell, drinking a coffee, and let's say in an hour meeting, we almost every time lost time and just like had a good conversation. And then in the end, I'm just like, shit, but okay, I'm here for the alarm. We had to just talk about that. And then we are kind of friends, so they feel like, okay, you solved my pain, or you've done this, or okay, it's the same thing, but you're a nice guy. Let's sign.
Because in the pre-talk that we had, you also said one really smart thing when it comes to sales. People don't only buy the product, they also buy the person.
Yeah, and I didn't know that when I started the sales, but the conversation went so easy, you know. They were nice, and they were pretty friendly, many of them. And I did know in my life I want to do something bigger. So suddenly I was talking to a CEO who did some kind of success at least. So it was very interesting to talk to them, and we had a good time, I would say. I drank a lot of coffee, so I was like having sleep problems in the end of the day, but but it was very fun. And I actually, it went pretty good. I was a top salesman in Norway for a while, and I loved my life and my working hours and my work life. Until my actually boss took me to the side, he took me to the meeting room, and he said like, okay, they're gonna do some changes in the company. We're gonna keep your base pay, that was very low, but we're gonna change your commission. We're gonna lower that, so every time you sell, you're gonna earn less. And I'm just like, okay, you could do that, but don't do it to me. And I was the top salesman, so I thought he would listen to me. And he tried actually to bring it up at a high level, but they said no. And I was just like a little bit pissed off, you know, because I've done pretty good for the company, and then they lower my pay. And then I told him that, okay, I will look for something else for your information. And I started to like look for other jobs. I met with a recruiter, and he presented a job, and both of us agreed on, after talking a bit back and forth, we agreed on that this kind of job isn't maybe what I'm supposed to do. But then he said to me that, okay, I have another thing, but I think you're unqualified, but it is as a stockbroker. And I didn't know anything about stockbroking. I heard about stocks. I know it was like a small piece of a company, but I didn't know more. But I thought it was a cool thing. So I'm just like, okay, tell me more. And he told me. We booked another meeting, and he said like, I think you're the right character. but you're underqualified because you don't have a master's in finance and so on. And he said that we could do a tryout. I cannot guarantee it, but if you read these books, and I got a bunch of books, like if you read these in
Like a big pile of books, right?
yeah, a big pile, and it was like different kind of financial books.
So not easy to read.
Pretty hard things. It was not a novel, so to say. It was like you have to read, you have to go back in pages and just like how does it work and so on. But I was so clear in my mind that okay, this is what I'm gonna do, because before in life I didn't know exactly what I should do, and I didn't see like my real future. So I started to read, and we had another meeting, and he said like, yeah, okay, you can meet the brokerage manager for the stockbrokers. So I met him, and he said like, yeah, you're underqualified, but we could still try. And we had a good talk, and he gave me 2 brochures of like 10 pages each with like heavy material, and just like these are our main 2 products. One was called a warrant and one was called an auto call. And it's like options that has a stock inside them. It's complex to explain like this, but it was very complex for me who didn't have seen it before, you know. So I tried to like read this because he gave me like 5 days or something. I tried to read this and understand it, make something out of it, Google, YouTube, everything, try to make something out of it. And I should present this to him. And I didn't have a PowerPoint skills as well, so I tried to do like a shitty PowerPoint presentation that looks like, I tried to find it actually a couple of weeks ago because I wouldn't be reminded of my bad PowerPoint skills. But then I presented it to him. I thought we're doing it pretty good. I don't know how I was actually doing it. I think semi-bad, maybe, I don't know. But he got the point that I've understood the products. But then this guy stopped answering me. He did stop answering the recruiter at least. And I talked to the recruiter, and he just like, yeah, you have to wait. And then I'm just like, the week passed by, you know, it was a month, and I was like, what's going on? And he just like, no, you just have to accept that he won't have you, and so on. And I tried to call him once he actually picked up the phone, because he didn't have...
Because there's one thing to dive into there. You've already set your mind to the thing that you are gonna be a stockbroker. Like you've shifted your mind. Okay, I'm gonna quit this alarm job, and I am going to be a stockbroker no matter what. So within 3 months, you read like a big pile of books. You studied your ass off, and then they stopped talking to you.
Yeah, and that was not in my agenda. You know, I didn't see that as a possibility, because as you said, I decided I never knew anything about manifesting and anything. I was like a kid, you know, but in a way I manifested where I supposed to go in life. And
how old were you then?
Then I was like 25, you know, so still still older than you. So but still, when I look back into it, I didn't know anything like that, you know. But I did a manifestation, and just like in a way, like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do in life. And when he stopped answering me, I'm just like, this doesn't fit in my, you know, agenda or my life. I'm just like, yeah, but then I have to go another way, and that's not possible. So I called him, the brokerage manager, and he didn't have my number. So he picked up the phone the first time, and he told me he should call me back, but he never did it. So I kept on calling him, and he didn't answer. And I talked to a recruiter, and he said, yeah, but there's nothing to do. So I actually wrote a physical letter why I should have the job to get me into the last like interview, and that was with the CEO and the owner of the company.
How long did it take? So how many, because you called every day, right? You were really persistent, foot into the door, really salesy actually, just staying firm. How long did you do it?
I would say the process was 3 or 4 months. I didn't call exactly every day, but I called him. He hated my ass, so to say. So maybe that's why he let me in. When I sent the letter, he just like, okay, this motherfucker doesn't give up. We have to give him a no or something. So yeah, I was like a pain in the ass for them. But I managed to get into the CEO, so that was like a success for me anyways. And we actually had a very good talk. He was very direct, And I've noticed in life, I like people that are direct, because direct people are not dangerous. Direct people don't go around the porridge, or how do you say it?
Walk around the bush.
Walk around the bush. They tell you what they need and what they think about you, and that could sound harsh sometimes, but it's actually some constructive criticism that you can do something with. And he had that thing, and I'm just like, okay, this is the most direct person I've met, but it's very nice. So I vibed on his like way of talking, and we had a really good talk. And he said like, yeah, do you have a girlfriend? And I had at the time like a 6-year-old relationship. So I told him, yeah, I have a relationship. He said, yeah, what is his name? And I answered to him, Fernando. And he just like sat down, just like, what is? He got shocked, you know. And he had the poker face all the meeting until then. And then I'm just like, yeah, I'm kidding with you. It's a girl, she's called Sofia. And then we started laughing, both of us, and it was really funny. And then he said, yeah, Thomas, I like you. I might call you in the end of the week. And then I told him, I know you will call me in the end of the week. And then I left, and then he actually called me and gave me the job. And yeah.
But now I'm curious though, because for how long did you stay at the alarm company?
4 years maybe.
4 years. How long did it take for you to actually learn the skill? So who was the person who learned you the skill of sales, the skill of selling? Who was your mentor in that way?
It was actually my managers in this alarm company. I think that has been my most valuable life lesson ever, you know. I can have a little bit of temper if someone pushes me, but you have to push me a lot. But, you know, people are very disrespectful to salespeople, because they're just like, yeah, I don't care. Okay, we have a meeting, but I don't care. You can go. And I could start a day good, and then I have this meeting where someone is disrespectful to me. And I took it personally, and I was digging myself down, and that actually ruined all my other meetings, you know. I was bringing that energy and that bad spirit into the next meeting. And my manager told me, he just like, you have a problem, you dig yourself down. It's like a spiral, you know, something bad happens, and then you overthink and just like become angry, and just like it takes a couple of days. And that's not good for you, because you make no money, you know. And the base pay in this company was so bad that you couldn't live off it. It was just like, yeah, it was very little. So he actually came with pinpointed me, and it was very good. We had sales trainings, and it's like a way of a psychologist, but for sales, you know.
And sales is psychology.
Yeah, it is. And he found like my weaknesses, and he pinpointed it. And he said like, either you could learn from this, or you could like go home and cry, you know. But I'm telling you, it's like, this is the way to go.
Also like the really direct, straightforward approach of learning. So no walking around the bush, just straightforward, direct. This is shit, fix that, and don't be a little bitch about it.
Yeah, exactly. And this was the guy who actually sent me the message when I didn't sell, like, you will be out of a job. So he was actually very direct as well, as you mentioned. And but that helped me, you know. I mean, like, some people in sales just like don't make it, and you have a sales manager who maybe see what is wrong, and he did that with me, and that's why I succeeded in that company, I would say.
And that's also what helped you in the whole process of getting the stockbroker's job. The persistence, the no walking around the bush, and also just the way of talking and connecting to people, with people, in that way to get you that job that you already set your mind to get. And then you had the stockbroker's job.
Yeah.
First day in office.
First, when I got the job, I actually, then things stopped for me. I'm just like, whoa, what am I doing? Because the base pay in this company was so bad. I knew I couldn't live on this, and you only get a yearly bonus. So I knew I would live over my means for like at least 1 year. So I'm just like, okay, before I started the job, I actually called my brother. And my brother and me are very different, but I've always seen him as a wise man. And I told him like, okay, I got this job, but I'm going down in pay, you know. And when I started the alarm company, suddenly I had a lot of money and could go on vacations and do stuff. And now I knew I would go back to not having money. And he said, yeah, what's the worst thing that could happen? And I'm just like, the worst thing that could happen is I lose my job. And he's just like, yeah, but then could you go back to the other job, alarm company? I'm just like, yeah, I guess I could do that. And he said, yeah, what are we discussing? And I'm just like, okay, let's go. So I attended the job 2 months later, and I had to read a lot of books in that time as well. So I sold alarms and read a lot of books. Started my day in this company and this brokerage firm, and didn't know anything about brokerage firms. I do now, and it's a very special vibe. I wouldn't say it's friendly. It was very bad. Like, you know, I went around and shook people's hand, and many people didn't even shook my hand, you know, when I presented myself. It was very special, and they started to like freeze me out actually. So every time it came a new broker, they froze that person out, and yeah, they were more or less very mean. And I'm just like, okay, I just have to like cope with this or whatever. So a week passed by, and then the second week came, and then me and my girlfriend broke up after 6 years. And even though it was, we broke up on the same terms, and just like, it was hard for me. It was like a person that meant very much to me, and it was a very long relationship. So I remember I got to my job. I went into the toilet sometimes and to cry, and then I went out and just made the calls, you know. And I remember I took one call to a customer, and he didn't take the phone. I was cold calling him. And then I took another call, and if someone tries to call me back at my number and I am in a call, it goes out on the table, so everybody's phones rings. And that is because if someone is going to sell some stocks, someone has to pick up the phone. So I was finishing up my call with another customer, and I see the guy in front of me is picking up the phone, and I see the number is like the person I call. And he picks up the phone, I end my call, and so I'm just listening to him and waiting for him to transfer the call to me. And then he just like, yeah, okay, oh, you got a lot of money. Yeah, I could schedule a meeting with me next week, and we could do this. And they were laughing, and just like, I'm just like, that's my customer. So he hung up the phone. I went around to him, and I told him, yeah, what did the customer say? And he just like, what do you mean? And I'm just like, yeah, that is my customer, I called him. And he said, no, you didn't. And I just like, okay, look it up in the CRM system. So he searched for the name or something, and that person pops up, but it says that it was his lead or something. But then I told him, yeah, but search for the cell phone number. And then two profiles appeared. The one he just created 10 seconds ago and mine. And then he looked me in the eye, and he just like, this is my customer now. You're not going to have it. And that was it in a way, you know. And I didn't know what to say because, you know, no one talked to me. He was like telling me this face to face, and the brokerage manager was sitting besides us. So I thought he would do something, but he didn't. He just like looked at the screen. He heard everything because it was like 1 meter away.
And at that point, you were like kind of bullied at your job. So the people were not nice to you. You broke up with your relation that lasted 6 years. And that's something you did not even tell here. You were also sleeping on the couch of a friend because your ex was in the apartment, and you still needed to figure that out, how to do everything within that.
Yeah.
So you slept on a couch, hated like the people around you because they're just not nice. And then this happened.
Yeah. And yeah, it was chaos in my head, you know. I forget to tell you about that, but as you said, I slept on the couch because me and my girlfriend broke up, and she didn't know where to stay. So I told her she could keep the apartment for 1 or 2 weeks, and I slept on the couch at my best friend's house. And I remember, you know, all these things happen. You work long hours from 7 to maybe 8 in the evening, and you read at the same time. I didn't have time to train. I didn't have time to meet my friends. I just was in this bubble, you know, and I hated my life. And on top of that, I didn't make money, you know, because the base pay was so low. And I remember I was at my friend's apartment and I told him, I'm just like, I don't think I can do this anymore because I pushed it too hard, you know. It wasn't nice, you know. I just like consider everything in my life. I'm just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And he actually told me, he just like, Thomas, you're so close now. You cannot give up. Even though I wanted to give up, he told me, don't do it. And I actually, just kept on working. And that situation at my office happened, and I was pissed. I had no money. I have nothing to lose in a way. And the brokerage manager took me to the side and asked, okay, what was happening? And I told him what happened, and I told the customer was mine. And he said, yeah, but you should give it to him, and so on and so on. And I will get you two together. So he took us to a meeting room, and it was us three. And this broker said like, yeah, I want the customer because he has some kind of neurological problem. I don't remember what it was. And the broker's father had that as well. So they have a lot in common. So he said like, I can take him. And I said no. And then the brokerage manager and the broker said, okay, you get 50% of everything I sell on it. And I was pissed off, you know. So I told him, you're not going to get anything from this customer, it's mine. And the same day it got transferred back to me. And for me, it was like, I didn't have anything to lose. I was pissed, you know. No one backed me up. I didn't have any friends. So I'm just like, I don't care if I get more enemies, you know. But from that day on, people started respecting me and people started to be friendly in a way. But the environment was still so toxic. I'm not able to explain it, you know. I know it was a new broker that started, and I was in the kitchen grabbing a coffee, and I don't know if this was the first day of this broker. He started, and he tried to make like a chit chat with one of the senior brokers. So he asked this broker and just like, what have you done this weekend? And the broker said, yeah, I've been with my wife. We've been to the cabin. We've been skiing and so on. And this young new broker, he said, yeah, me and my girlfriend has been, and then he just like, shh. The broker just hished him in his face and just like, I don't want to hear. And then he left.
Let's just say a lot of things happened at a brokerage firm that you tell me personally, but we do not talk about here.
I think that's a good idea.
But also the work environment there, what you see in the movie, as well as like people are fucking rude to each other all the time, and just only if you're there, if you're up there, if you earn some kind of respect, they become a bit nicer, but it's still the direct, straightforward fuck you mentality.
Exactly. And that was the case. You know, you cannot forget that you actually are responsible for millions of dollars, you know, every day, you know, you're trading. So you cannot keep like, I think it's because you cannot keep like the personal relationships, because you cannot mix in that with work, you know, because it could turn the other way and so on. So people had that mentality, you know. I had some of my nearest friends from there, but when we got into the office in the morning, you don't say hi to each other. I tried to wave to some of my friends, and they just looked at me and just like looked down at the computer again. You don't even have lunch together. You sit by your computer with like this booth and just like sit and do whatever for the 30 minutes you have to eat. And then you back to it. But outside we had a friendly vibe, me and my friends from there. We had really good time. But in office you didn't. And I remember also when I was new, I was in the kitchen again. The kitchen happened a lot of crazy shit. But I was in the kitchen. Some broker was cutting up apples, and I was like 2 meters away, and I had a cough. The other way, I did like this, coughing in my armpit. And then he looked at me, he turned around slowly and just like, I'm cutting my apples. You are coughing in here. And then he took the trash bin and just like a knife and just like throw it down and just like put the trash bin down and left. And I'm just like, And this was in the beginning as well.
What the fuck?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do, and he left anyway, so I didn't know what to say, you know. So that was the vibe, you know. But I liked what I did, you know, buying and selling stocks for customers, and we did a lot of like options trading and so on. And it was very fun. We did a lot of cases, you know. You look into different markets like China or Europe or America, and then you do like specific cases on different countries. So I really liked what I did, but the working hours were so long, you know. You worked from 7 in the morning. I became a coaching broker, so in the morning I went to the office earlier. I had to do a presentation every morning of how the market has been in China, how it most likely will open in Europe, and then how the US could open later in the day. And I like that as well, but you know, after some years, you know, I got some kind of feeling in my body. I didn't even know what it was, and I got tingling in my face. I got tired. I didn't want to meet people. I isolated myself, and my doctor said like you're having burnout. And one of my colleagues had it before, and he just like, you have to chill. You have to take some days off. So I went to my brokerage manager, and I told him my symptoms, like tingling in my face. I was tired. I couldn't concentrate, and so on. I told him actually basically everything from a burnout. And then he just told me, Thomas, if you just put away your cell phone and no distractions, and you just keep on calling more, just keep on calling, and you will forget about this. And then I actually understood that he didn't care about me or anyone else. I knew that before, but it was so obvious to me at that point, you know. So I went to the doctor, and he told me I could take like a week or 2 off. And that was like the first time I took a couple of weeks off basically in my life since I started working and not doing anything. You know, I did walks by myself and just like, I felt much better. So then I got back to my job, and I decided to quit. And I was the top brokerage in the firm together with 3 more. And it was pretty hard for me because then I earned serious money for the first time in my life. Before, I earned good money at the alarm company, but this was something else.
This was like
this
serious money.
Yeah, this was something else. It's non-comparable. And I was pretty young at the point as well. But I decided to quit anyways because I felt like, okay, if this gets any worse, this is not the life I want to live, you know?
It was sacrificing your health for wealth.
Exactly. And that's something I think you should never do, because wealth would come and go, you know, but your health, what if you don't have that when you're 30 or 40? I mean, like, then it's nothing left for you. You just have the money. So I actually got in touch with a guy that was supposed to start a VC fund, venture capital fund.
And how old were you at the point that you like quit the whole brokerage firm?
When I actually quit the brokerage firm, I was 29. I was supposed to turn 30.
So then you have almost 10 years of like selling and everything in.
Yeah. And, you know, I didn't know what to do. And I got in contact with some guy that has a venture capital fund. Mm-hmm. And he told me that we could do something together. I got a minor part. I think I got 12% of this company. And what we did was we worked as an incubator or accelerator. So what we did was find tech companies, SaaS, software as a service, that we saw potential in, but they didn't know how to sell. So we went into these companies with money. We gave them some of our private money, and we got some shares in the company, 5 to 10% maybe. And then we started selling for these companies. So we went in on their side. We were kind of employees. So we made some sales for the companies, and we made profit from selling, and the company's value was rising, you know. But the problem is we didn't sell. We put our money in, and we had a product. We had a SaaS company that we thought was very good, but when we booked the meetings, it was good. But when we got to the meetings, they said like, no, you don't have use for this. And
I think
Oh,
we're out of time.
Oh, we're out of time. Okay.
So then we need to finish up. Actually, so to fast forward, you had the SaaS company. Then at some point, still had the burnout feeling. Your head did not work well, and then you start a new company. And the biggest lesson from that is that you did something that you actually like, with people that you actually like.
Yeah, and I think that's crucial to do what you like, and as you said, with people you like. The people I work together with now is amazing. It's my friends, both in private and in my job. We're partners, but this is like, yeah, I love going to my job every day now in my company, and I think like I'm very lucky of where I am now. I'm sitting here. I could work from everywhere I want, you know, and that's something that you should always have on top of your mind, you know.
And also, like, we do a lot here together, like going to the beach in the morning and everything. And also, like, sometimes you're just that small little kid that comes, yeah, we need to go because then we can watch the sunset and then go back to office. And it's like those small things of enjoyment are the things that really suit you. And beyond that, you're actually a really nice guy. So that helps as well.
And so are you. I've known you now for a couple of weeks, and we have a lot of fun things we're going through, like sunsets and everything.
And that we really need to quit right now.
Yeah, it's banging on the door for those who doesn't hear it, so we have to actually cut this off now. I did bang now.
And then we would say, subscribe, like, everything, and see you later. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.